Kira Patel's reputation in New Singapore's engineering district wasn't exactly stellar. Most people called her eccentric at best, dangerous at worst. But she was the only engineer in the sector willing to take on jobs that others deemed impossible. Her workshop, nestled between towering quantum fabrication plants and sleek corporate offices, looked more like a museum of mechanical oddities than a professional establishment. The morning that changed everything started normally enough. Kira was elbow-deep in the guts of a malfunctioning hover transport when her workshop's proximity sensors chimed. She didn't bother looking up, expecting another frustrated corporate client with an urgent repair job. "Doors open," she called out, voice muffled by the transport's interior. The temperature in the workshop dropped several degrees. That was her first clue that this wasn't a typical client. The second was the complete silence that followed, no footsteps, no clearing of throat, nothing. Just a presence that seemed to fill the entire space. Kira extracted herself from the transport and froze. Standing in her workshop was the tallest being she'd ever seen. The figure stood at least 8 feet tall, encased in battle armor that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. Despite its damaged state, the armor radiated an aura of advanced technology that made every piece of equipment in Kira's workshop look like children's toys. The being's face was partially visible through a transparent section of the helmet, distinctly feminine features with skin that had an iridescent quality, shifting between deep purple and midnight blue. But it was the eyes that held Kira transfixed, solid silver orbs that seemed to contain galaxies. "Well," Kira managed, wiping her hands on her already stained coveralls, "I'm guessing you didn't come here for a routine maintenance check." She gestured at the obvious battle damage marring the alien's armor. "That's some serious work you need done there." The alien warrior, female, Kira presumed, tilted her head slightly. When she spoke, her voice was like liquid crystal, each word perfectly formed yet somehow otherworldly. "You are Kira Patel, the one who fixes the unfixable." "That's what they say," Kira replied, walking a slow circle around her visitor. "Though usually it's meant as an insult." She stopped in front of the warrior again, crossing her arms. "Got a name, or should I just call you tall, dark, and intimidating?" "I am Vexara." The warrior's armor made a concerning, grinding sound as she moved. "Your reputation has reached far beyond your Earth." Kira raised an eyebrow. "That's either really good or really bad news. Given the state of your armor, I'm leaning toward bad." She gestured to her main workstation. "Mind if I take a closer look?" Vexara moved with liquid grace despite her damaged armor, positioning herself near the diagnostic array. Kira activated her scanning equipment, and the readings nearly made her drop her tablet. The armor's technology was unlike anything she'd ever encountered, and she'd seen some bizarre tech in her time. "This is," Kira trailed off, scrolling through the data. "The energy matrix alone is decades ahead of anything we have. The molecular structure of the armor." She looked up at Vexara with new appreciation. "Who exactly are you running from that you'd need something this advanced?" "Not running," Vexara corrected. "Hunting." Something in the warrior's tone made Kira's spine tingle. She'd heard enough threats in her life to recognize when someone was speaking from experience rather than bravado. Whatever Vexara was hunting, it was serious enough to risk coming to Earth for repairs. "Right," Kira said, pulling up her holoscreen to start mapping out repair sequences. "Well, lucky for you, I've got a soft spot for impossible projects and mysterious clients. But I should warn you, fixing this isn't going to be quick or cheap." "Resources are not a concern," Vexara stated. "Time, however, is critical." Kira nodded, already formulating plans and calculations. "I'll need to fabricate custom replacements for some of these components. The energy redistribution system alone—" She paused, noticing something odd in the scan results. "Wait a minute, these power readings. They're not just combat grade, this is." She looked up at Vexara, realization dawning. The armor wasn't just advanced, it was royal. The patterns in the energy signature matched ancient symbols she'd seen in xenoarchaeology journals. Symbols associated with the Nexus Empire, the most powerful civilization in known space. "Oh," Kira said softly, "you're not just a warrior, are you?" Vexara's silver eyes seemed to glow brighter. Fix the armor, Engineer Patel. What I am is not your concern. But Kira knew better. Whatever was happening, she had just become involved in something far bigger than a simple repair job. And judging by the way her workshop's security systems were suddenly picking up increased surveillance activity in the area, she wasn't the only one who had noticed her unusual client. The next 12 hours in Kira's workshop felt like dancing on the edge of a plasma torch. Her hands moved across Vexara's armor with practiced precision, but her mind raced with possibilities, none of them comforting. The armor's internal systems were revealing secrets that made her increasingly uneasy. This quantum resonance pattern, Kira muttered, more to herself than her stoic client. It's not just for defense. The whole suit's designed to channel massive amounts of energy. She glanced up at Vexara, who stood watching her work with those unsettling silver eyes. The kind of energy usually associated with starship cores. Vexara remained silent, but her posture shifted almost imperceptibly. Outside, the faint whine of surveillance drones grew more noticeable. Kira continued working, carefully reconstructing the damaged sections. "You know," she said, keeping her voice casual, "most people come to Earth for the beaches, the culture, maybe some illegal tech trading. Not many drop in wearing armor that could probably level a small city." "Your planet's authorities are becoming curious," Vexara observed, ignoring Kira's implied question. "Yeah, well, can you blame them?" Kira connected a new power conduit, watching the energy readings stabilize. "I count at least 6 military-grade surveillance units outside, probably more I can't detect." She wiped sweat from her forehead, leaving a streak of metallic residue. "Want to tell me what's really going on before they decide to stop being polite?" For the first time since arriving, Vexara seemed to hesitate. "There are forces in motion that your world is not prepared to face." "That's not ominous at all," Kira replied, but her hands never stopped working. She discovered that focusing on the intricate repairs helped keep her rising anxiety in check. "Let me guess. These forces have something to do with why your armor looks like it went 10 rounds with a supernova." The alien warrior moved closer to the workbench, her movement so fluid it seemed to defy gravity. "There are those who would reshape the galaxy according to their vision. They believe that younger species like humanity should be guided, controlled." Kira's hand stilled. "And you disagree?" "I believe in choice," Vexara said, her voice carrying an edge of steel, "even if those choices lead to chaos." A warning light flashed on Kira's security display. The surveillance drones were moving closer, their pattern shifting from observation to containment. She had maybe minutes before things got complicated. "Well," Kira said, making a final adjustment to the armor's power matrix, "looks like we're about to have some choices of our own to make." She activated the main power sequence, watching as the armor systems came fully online for the first time since Vexara's arrival. The energy readings were staggering. The armor hummed with power, its surface shifting like liquid metal. Patterns of light coursed through previously invisible channels, forming intricate designs that Kira recognized from ancient stellar maps or the royal seals of the Nexus Empire. "You're not just any noble, are you?" Kira asked, though she already knew the answer. "You're the sovereign herself, the one they call the Starweaver." Vexara's reply was cut short by the sound of heavy vehicles surrounding the workshop. Armored troops were taking up positions outside, their weapons charged and ready. "Engineer Patel," a voice boomed through external speakers. "This is Earth Defense Force. Your facility is now under quarantine. Surrender your client and prepare for immediate evacuation." Kira looked at Vexara, whose armor was now fully operational and practically singing with power. "I don't suppose you'd consider using the back door." The alien sovereign's eyes gleamed with something almost like amusement. "That would be unwise. There are 3 heavy assault vessels in geosynchronous orbit tracking this location." "Of course there are," Kira sighed, already pulling up the workshop's defense schematics on her neural interface. She'd built this place to withstand industrial accidents, not military sieges. "Any chance you'd share what's so important that Earth's military and your mysterious enemies are willing to start an interplanetary incident over it?" Vexara raised her hand, and a holographic display materialized in the air between them. The image showed a stellar phenomenon Kira had never seen before, a massive structure hidden in the dark space between galaxy arms. That, Vexara said quietly, is what they seek to control, and what I must prevent them from reaching. Outside, the troops began their final approach, and Kira realized she had a choice to make. The kind of choice that would reshape not just her life, but potentially the future of human-alien relations. She looked at her workshop, her life's work, and then at the magnificent being standing before her. "Well," she said, fingers flying over her control panel, "I always wanted to see the galaxy." Alarms blared throughout Kira's workshop as the Earth Defense Force began their breach procedures. She worked frantically at her control station, rerouting power and activating systems that hadn't been tested since installation. "Just so we're clear," she said to Vexara, "I'm probably committing about 15 different acts of treason right now." The sovereign of the Nexus Empire stood in the center of the workshop, her restored armor pulsing with ethereal energy. "Your species' laws are inadequate for the current situation." That's one way of putting it. Kira activated her workshop's quantum shielding, an experimental system she'd salvaged from a crashed alien vessel years ago. The air shimmered as the barrier materialized. "So, about that structure you showed me, the one everyone's willing to start an interstellar war over." Vexara's silver eyes narrowed. "The Nexus Gate, an artifact left by those your kind would call the precursors. It has remained dormant for millennia until now." The workshop shuddered as EDF forces began their assault on the shields. Kira's displays showed their energy weapons having minimal effect, for now. "Let me guess, someone figured out how to turn it on." "The Shadebringers," Vexara said, the name carrying centuries of weighted history. "A faction that broke from the Empire generations ago. They believe the gate is the key to ascending beyond physical form." Her armor's energy patterns shifted, reflecting her tension. "They are wrong. The gate was sealed for a reason." Another blast rocked the workshop. Kira's screens showed multiple breaching vehicles moving into position. "They're setting up sonic disruptors," she reported. "These shields won't hold forever." "They need not hold for long." Vexara moved to the workshop center, her armor beginning a complex transformation. Panels shifted and realigned, energy conduits pulsing with increasing intensity. "My ship will arrive soon." Kira stared at her displays in disbelief as new signals appeared in orbit. "Those aren't your ships." The energy signatures were all wrong, darker, more predatory. "The Shadebringers." "They are persistent," Vexara acknowledged. Her voice remained calm, but Kira detected a note of genuine concern. "And now they know I am here." The workshop's structural integrity alerts began screaming as the EDF's sonic weapons took their toll. Kira's mind raced through options, calculations, possibilities. "Your armor," she said suddenly. "The quantum resonance pattern, it's not just for defense or power generation. It's a key." Vexara turned those silver eyes on her, and Kira knew she'd hit upon something important. "You are," perceptive Engineer Patel. "The gate requires a specific energy signature to activate," Kira continued, the pieces falling into place. "Your armor can provide it. That's why the Shadebringers are hunting you. They need either you or your armor to access the gate." "The situation is more complex," Vexara replied. "The gate requires not just energy, but intent, will, purpose. The armor alone is useless without one who understands its true nature." Another blast shook the workshop, and this time, cracks appeared in the quantum shield. Kira's screens showed the Shadebringer ships engaging Earth's orbital defenses. The situation was deteriorating rapidly. "So why come to Earth?" Kira asked, even as she rerouted power to maintain the failing shields. "Why risk bringing this conflict here?" Vexara's answer was interrupted by a new alarm. Kira's eyes widened as she read the energy signatures. "They're powering up something big up there, some kind of." The world turned white. A massive energy beam from one of the Shadebringer ships pierced the atmosphere, aimed directly at the workshop. Kira had a fraction of a second to realize this was it. They were about to be vaporized. But Vexara moved faster than thought. Her armor blazed with power, creating a bubble of pure energy around them both. The beam struck, and reality itself seemed to bend. Kira felt her quantum shields shatter, felt the workshop beginning to disintegrate around them. Then Vexara spoke, her voice carrying the weight of command that had ruled an empire for centuries. Enough! The energy bubble expanded explosively, deflecting the beam back into space. In its wake, the workshop lay in ruins, but they were alive. And now Kira understood why Vexara had sought her out specifically. "You didn't come here just for repairs," she said, looking at the Sovereign with new understanding. "You came because you needed someone who could see the patterns, someone who could understand the technology well enough to—" She paused, the implications hitting her. "To help you destroy the gate." Vexara inclined her head slightly. "The Shadebringers believe the gate will grant them ascension. They are wrong. It will bring only destruction. But preventing that requires knowledge they do not possess, knowledge that, somehow, you have begun to grasp." Outside, through the workshop's shattered walls, Kira could see EDF forces regrouping. Above, the Shadebringer ships were preparing for another attack. And somewhere out in the dark between galaxies, an ancient mechanism waited to either elevate consciousness to new heights or unleash unimaginable devastation. "Well," Kira said, reaching for her emergency gear, "I always wanted my work to make a difference in the universe. Though I was thinking more along the lines of improved engine efficiency, not preventing cosmic apocalypse." The ruins of Kira's workshop crackled with residual energy as she grabbed her emergency pack, a collection of specialized tools and portable quantum interfaces she'd hoped never to need. Through the holes in her workshop's ceiling, she could see the Shadebringer ships engaging Earth's orbital defense platforms, their dark hulls absorbing weapons fire like cosmic predators. "Your world's defenses cannot hold them for long," Vexara stated, her armor still humming with power from deflecting the energy beam. "We must reach my ship." "Slight problem with that plan," Kira replied, checking her neural interface. "EDF has locked down all transport tubes in a 10-kilometer radius, and those Shadebringer ships have established a high-altitude energy net." She pulled up a tactical display, projecting it between them. "We're trapped." A deep rumble shook the ground, and through the workshop's broken walls, they saw massive military carriers descending from the clouds. The EDF was done playing nice. "Perhaps," Vexara said, her silver eyes gleaming, "it is time I showed you why the Empire chose me as sovereign." She extended her hand toward Kira. "Do you trust me, Engineer Patel?" Kira looked at the offered hand, then at the chaos erupting around them. "Considering the alternative is probably a military detention facility or Shadebringer dissection table. Sure, why not?" The moment their hands connected, Kira felt Vexara's armor begin to change. Nanoscale components flowed like liquid metal, extending from the Sovereign's suit to encompass them both. The sensation was bizarre, like being wrapped in a second skin made of starlight and steel. "The armor's quantum field can protect us both," Vexara explained as the transformation completed. "But we must move quickly. The Shadebringers will have detected the energy signature." Kira was about to respond when her neural interface screamed a warning. A massive surge of dark energy was building directly above them. "They're going to try to capture us in a quantum stasis field," she realized, reading the signatures. "If they succeed." "They won't," Vexara's voice carried absolute certainty. "Hold tight, Engineer." The world blurred. Kira felt her stomach lurch as Vexara's armor propelled them through space in a way that shouldn't have been possible. They weren't just moving fast, they were somehow sliding between the moments of time itself. They emerged on top of one of New Singapore's towering arcologies, the city sprawling beneath them like a crystal garden. Kira stumbled, her mind struggling to process what had just happened. That was quantum displacement. You can quantum shift without a generator array." "The armor has many functions," Vexara replied, scanning the sky, "most of which even my own people have forgotten." A new voice cut through the air, "But not all of us have forgotten, Sovereign." They turned to find a figure emerging from the shadows. It wore armor similar to Vexara's, but darker, almost predatory in design. The Shadebringer's voice was melodious yet wrong, like shattered crystal singing. "Admiral Nix," Vexara said, her tone carrying centuries of history. "You abandoned your oath to the Empire." "I evolved beyond it," the Shadebringer replied. "As all our people must, the gate calls to us, Sovereign. It promises elevation beyond this limited existence." "It promises extinction," Vexara countered. "You've seen the signs, read the same ancient warnings I have. The gate was sealed to prevent. To prevent our ascension." Nix's armor pulsed with dark energy. "You cling to your physical throne while godhood awaits us." Kira's neural interface was going crazy, reading energy patterns that shouldn't exist. The air itself seemed to be cracking around them as the two ancient beings prepared for battle. But something else caught her attention, a subtle resonance pattern in both their armors. "Wait," she said, pieces clicking together in her mind. "The gate isn't just a doorway, is it? It's a test." Both Vexara and Nix turned to look at her. Kira continued, her engineer's mind racing through the implications. "These energy patterns, the quantum resonance, it's all connected. The gate doesn't just need the right key, it needs to verify that whoever tries to use it understands the consequences." "A human cannot comprehend," Nix began, but Vexara cut him off. "She sees what you refuse to," the Sovereign said. "The gate is not a path to ascension. It is a filter designed to prevent exactly what you intend." Above them, the Shadebringer ships began taking heavy damage from Earth's orbital defenses. Nix's armor crackled with increasing power. "Then we will prove ourselves worthy by force." The Shadebringer launched himself at them, his armor trailing streams of dark energy. But Kira had already started moving, her hands flying over the portable quantum interface she'd brought. If she was right about the armor's resonance patterns. "Vexara," she shouted. "The harmonic frequency, it's not about power, it's about balance." The Sovereign understood instantly. As Nix reached them, Vexara's armor shifted, its energy patterns changing from aggressive defense to something more complex. The resulting collision sent shockwaves across the arcology's roof, but instead of destruction, there was harmony. Nix stumbled back, his armor's dark energy suddenly unstable. What is this?" "This," Kira said, finalizing the quantum calculations, "is what the gate's creators were trying to teach us." She looked at Vexara. "Shall we show him?" The arcology's roof trembled beneath their feet as Kira's quantum interface synchronized with both sets of armor. Streams of light, gold from Vexara's suit, shadow from Nix's, began to interweave in complex patterns above them. In orbit, the battles between Earth's forces and the Shadebringer ships suddenly paused, all attention drawn to the spectacle unfolding atop New Singapore's highest point. "Impossible," Nix whispered, watching as his armor's dark energy was caught in an intricate dance with Vexara's light. "A human could not possibly understand the quantum harmonics of—" "That's your problem," Kira interrupted, her fingers dancing across holographic controls. "You're so focused on ascending beyond humanity that you miss the whole point of the gate's design." She nodded to Vexara, who began moving in perfect synchronization with the energy patterns. It was never about proving superiority, it was about proving harmony. The Sovereign's silver eyes blazed as she guided her armor's energy into an ever more complex symphony with Nix's darkness. "The precursors did not create the gate as a path to godhood," she said. "They created it as a bridge between civilizations." Above them, the sky began to change. The quantum resonance between the two alien armors had reached such intensity that it was affecting local spacetime. Through the distortion, something massive became visible, a structure of impossible geometry, floating in the void between galaxy arms. "The Nexus Gate. You see it now, don't you?" Kira asked Nix, even as she struggled to maintain the delicate balance of energies. "The gate's security system isn't about power or worthiness. It's about cooperation, understanding. It needs both light and shadow, creation and destruction working in perfect balance." Nix's armor shuddered as understanding finally dawned. "All this time, we thought we needed to prove our supremacy. When you needed to prove your ability to work with those you considered beneath you," Vexara finished. as the precursors did with each other, despite their differences. The gate's image grew clearer, its ancient mechanisms responding to the harmony being generated on Earth. But Kira's instruments showed something was wrong. The energy buildup was becoming unstable. "We need to shut it down," she shouted over the rising quantum storm. "The resonance pattern is too powerful. It's drawing the gate too close to our reality." Her neural interface was screaming warnings about imminent spacetime fractures. "If we stop now," Nick said, his voice strained, "the gate will remain forever beyond reach." "If we don't stop," Vexara countered, "it will tear this solar system apart." Kira made a decision. Her hands flew across the interface, implementing a desperate plan. "Both of you on my mark, reverse your armor's energy polarity. We're going to create a quantum feedback loop." "That will destroy our armor's power cores," Nyx protested. "Better than destroying Earth," Kira shot back. "Ready, 3, 2, 1, now." The two ancient warriors moved in perfect unison, their armor's energies suddenly inverting. The resulting feedback cascade was like a star being born in reverse. Light and shadow collapsed inward, the gate's image flickering and distorting before finally vanishing in a thunderclap of quantum energy. When the light faded, both sets of armor stood powerless, their once mighty energy cores reduced to inert metal. But Earth was safe, and more importantly, a lesson had been learned. Nyx looked at his dead armor, then at Vexara and Kira. "We were wrong," he said simply, "about everything." "Not everything," Vexara replied. "The gate exists, and now we know its true purpose, not to elevate one species above others, but to bring them together." She turned to Kira. "As you brought us together today." The sound of approaching aircraft filled the air, Earth's military, no doubt with countless questions about what had just occurred. Kira looked at her fried quantum interface and laughed. "Well, this is going to be fun to explain to the authorities." "Perhaps," Vexara said, a hint of amusement in her silver eyes. "It is time for your world to officially join the galactic community. After all, you have proven humanity's worth far better than any trial by combat." Nyx nodded slowly. "The Shadebringers will stand down, and," he hesitated, "perhaps it is time we return to the Empire with new understanding." As the aircraft began landing around them, Kira looked between the two ancient warriors, no longer enemies, thanks to a human engineer's ability to see the patterns others had missed. "You know," she said, "my workshop's going to need rebuilding. Any chance I could get some alien contractors? I've got some ideas for improvements." Vexara's expression might have been a smile. "I believe, Engineer Patel, this is the beginning of a most interesting partnership." Above them, the stars seemed to shine brighter, as if the universe itself was approving of this new bridge between worlds. The gate might remain hidden for now, but its lesson had been learned. The path forward wasn't through dominance or ascension, but through understanding and cooperation. And it had taken a human engineer, an alien sovereign, and a misguided admiral to finally understand what the precursors had known all along: that the greatest power in the universe wasn't in rising above others, but in learning to rise together.